to information, to knowledge, to mentorship, to resources is just like orders of magnitude more than what it was when I was trying to do something. In fact, I don't even remember using the word entrepreneur in those early days, right? It was definitely not. It was not in vogue. It was not a. It was not a sexy profession to have. And many of us were actually accidental entrepreneurs. We didn't know that we were being entrepreneurs. We were willing to go out of our comfort zone. We were willing to do something different, but we didn't really know what we were doing, frankly. We knew that we wanted to do something, try out something new, but like I said, accidental entrepreneurs. And today, the whole field of entrepreneurship has become so much more scientific. There is vast, copious amounts of information to follow. There are best practices for a software company, for a hardware company. There's the whole lean and customer development and agile methodology. So the landscape is so different. In many ways, you would think that therefore it is easier because you have so much more access to information. But in some ways, it's also far more competitive. It's far more demanding because you have so much of information that that information arbitrage to some degree, a lot of that in our favor when we were starting up. And now it's really about your ability to process all of these incoming streams of information and knowledge and make quick decisions that you hope will pan out. So very different game, I think, today compared to what we were doing. And we didn't know what we were doing, to be honest. Actually, I didn't know what I was doing.
So before we go more into, I want to know a little bit more about you personally. So you are IIT Delhi alum. So what was your hostel?
Aravali.
Aravali. So go Aravali.
Yeah.
So
Are you Aravali too?
No, Shivalik.
Wait, Shivalik used to be the PG hostel,
I was
right?
doing the masters.
Masters. So you were okay. All right.
So
yeah.
But now it is undergrad, by the way. I was pretty bad. I was there a few years ago. My cousin was, he was an undergrad there and staying in Shivalik. Anyway, so Ajay, I remember when I was with you, I was working with you way back in '93.
Mm-hmm.
And the technology was really evolving. I still remember even getting email was a tough thing. So how did you even come up with the idea of starting this and moving yours? I mean, you lived in West, you lived in the best part of the world in Silicon Valley, went back. How did you adjust it with that, and how you see today? Is it easier or difficult?
So I think there were two questions, right? One was kind of how did I think about doing GIS? And then I think the second question was this adjustment of cultural surroundings and the milieu. But so the first question was, Sanjiv, honestly, again, being an accidental entrepreneur, I was just open to possibilities. So my professor at Stanford, he was also my advisor and was my mentor, and he has shaped my life. His name is Dr. Haresh Shah. He was, when I was at Stanford, he was the head of civil engineering. But he also had a knack of identifying students who he thought might do something interesting in their lives. And I was fortunate that he gave me many opportunities, including the first one was to go to Japan. I was working at the Center for Integrated Facilities Engineering, CIFE, at Stanford as a research assistant, and of course also getting my master's. And the center was funded by many Japanese companies.
Wow.
And so he said, "Do you want to go to Japan?" I was like, "Okay, why not?" And it was very unconventional, frankly, because people took internships or took positions with, at least in civil engineering, with kind of the well-established civil engineering companies, Ovarup or Floor Daniel or even maybe Bechtel. Nobody went to Japan because going to Japan, you were kind of partially mute and partially dumb. You don't speak the language and you don't understand the language. And I said, why not? And I just landed up in Japan, and it was probably the best 2 years of my life. And then I came back to Stanford to complete an engineer's degree, and my prof was still tracking me. And he said, what do you want to do in life? And I said, I don't know, but I do feel like I want to go and do something in India, and I want to do something interesting. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do. And he said, well, why don't you meet my son? He's doing a startup in Palo Alto. And he's also a Stanford student. You might have even met him or done a class with him. So I met Hemant Shah, who is Haresh's son, but more importantly, has again been an amazing partner, eventually boss, friend, mentor. So Hemant was doing a startup where he had taken some of the research work at Stanford that his father, another civil engineering professor, were doing around modeling of earthquake risk, and to understand if they could help insurance companies understand the risk from earthquakes, because there were several earthquakes that happened in the late 80s and early 90s, particularly Loma Prieta was one of them, where insurance companies felt like they didn't have a good understanding of the risk from earthquakes. These were low frequency, high severity events. And so that's what Hemant was doing. And I met him in Palo Alto in a small office on High Street. And I saw a lot of Stanford students over there, and they were coloring these maps, and they put butter paper on top of these USGS geological maps and coloring them and then scanning them and writing some programs to analyze the colors and the polygons. It seemed very kind of manual in some ways. And Hemant and I got talking, and in fact, he said that, there is some new technology called GIS, and maybe you can explore that and see whether this is something that we can do much better. And I said, okay, I'll find out more about GIS. And that was how I ended up doing a GIS company. It was multiple other people who helped seed this idea. And I think that's true of a lot of entrepreneurs, right? Yes, you do have your own ideas, but often they are molded or influenced.
You collaborate with the right people and you build things together. No, I completely agree with you on that, Ajay. And looking back, if I remember a lot of my experiences, especially working in the GIS space in India as well as in Singapore, it's phenomenal. I still remember when RMSI worked with Aisha and launched the map of Delhi. And I look back and I designed the first vehicle location system of Singapore, actually Asia at that time in 96, 97. We couldn't really we could have pushed a little bit further, because today, if you look at the Google Maps, that's like a phenomenal thing. And we used to talk about that in 95, 96. And it was real. We never thought consumer as a market. We were always looking enterprise as a market. Hey, who's going to pay the next check? So the big lesson I learned is today, if I look back, and I don't want to change anything in my life. That's one thing. But big lesson is we have to think about micro transactions. We have to think how we have impact on every single human being rather than focusing and helping larger organization all the time. The technology people are building today, in my opinion, they should think how it is going to impact billion people rather than focusing on making $1 billion. So, I mean, IITians have built thousands and thousands of multi-billion-dollar company, and you and me are fortunate. We were part of a few of those companies in different way, but may not be co-founders, but you have built a very, very successful career, successful companies, and several of those, I believe now. I don't even know so many companies you have invested into. Stanford Angel is one of the major angel firm in US too. So what keeps you up, especially in post-pandemic world? That's a big question I'm hearing from all the people I'm talking to, because everything is completely disrupted. Whether we talk about education, we talk about food, we talk about literally every single thing.
Yeah. And honestly, I used to pride myself on being able to sleep at night very peacefully. I used to, at least until April or May, enjoy really good nights. I mean, however problematic the day might have been, or the investment might have been, or before that, the business situation might have been, I never had difficulties falling asleep and staying asleep till it was time to wake up. But something did happen, Sanjeev, in around this kind of March, April timeframe. And I have to say that I actually things do keep me up at night. Not this figurative, what keeps somebody up at night is actually keeping me up at night. And I think there are several things going on in my mind these days, and that I'm not able to switch off from when I'm calling it quits at night and lying in bed and hoping that sleep will come. And I know my anxiety levels overall, frankly, have also gone up. I never used to think that I was an anxious person. Um, Part of it, of course, is just the daily news and the doom scrolling that one does, about and looking for the silver lining in all of the gloom and doom and bad news, particularly in India, where we have really struggled both with the lockdown, a very aggressive lockdown that unfortunately has not played out. But back to this kind of what keeps me up at night. So if I actually feel almost like there are some existential issues that the pandemic has brought to fore, and to my mind, and these are, I think, four key areas for me that I worry about. Some of these, maybe two or three of these areas, I have lots of hope as well, and optimism. But a couple of these areas, I'm actually pessimistic, and it's hard to be optimistic in today's time. So it's unfortunate. So first and foremost, I think is the environment. Uh, you know, uh, I have, for the last several years, although I've been more focused on technology and B2B and SaaS, but I think I am growing. I'm growing in my understanding of all of the challenges that we are leaving for next generations, and several events that have also happened over the last year have kind of exacerbated these environmental issues around global warming, greenhouse gases, deforestation, loss of biodiversity, coral dying. I can go on and on, right? And I do worry because living in Delhi, we suffer from one of the environmental issues, which is air pollution. And I have seen it personally in my family. I suffer from an allergy. So it's no longer out there, someone else's problem. It's actually, we are living through it. So the environment has been a big thing that is keeping me awake, both literally because of my allergies, as well as just thinking about what are we leaving for our children? What kind of a world are we leaving?
Ajay, if I stretch it a little bit further,
Yeah.
In the pandemic world, we all thought by closing the borders, we will be able to live better. And we tried it. And it kind of worked, but we know reality is it doesn't. And what happened in epicenter, which is China, and what happened globally, even today, we are still figuring out what is going on. There are a lot of vaccine talks we are talking, but point I'm trying to make it is we are all so connected. So something happened anywhere. In fact, the atomic bomb we dropped in Japan, we are still not over it as a word. And it is impacting every single person globally, one way or the other. So
you just look at the fires in California, right? I mean, they've reached Canada, and I know a friend of mine in Calgary who's saying, our air pollution has gotten quite bad. So yes, problems in the Amazon are going to be global in nature. If the balance of the Amazon, hits that tipping point of 20-25% deforestation, it's not going to be Brazil's problem only. We're going to lose a major source of sucking of the carbon dioxide, but that's going to be gone, and there's going to be overall massive impact. So yeah, you're right that it's a global world, and despite all of the attempts to maybe try and keep, I mean, even air pollution, right? It's crops being burnt in some of the northern states impact citizens in Delhi, right? So that's the first one.
Okay.
The next two relate to health, Sanjeev, right? It's both kind of the physical health and sort of the social and emotional health.
Mm-hmm.
On physical health, I'm actually more positive, despite the pandemic and despite people saying that this might be something that we have to deal with, viruses coming out of nowhere. But I'm actually positive that the role of technology in improving our health is actually, to me, that's the, a very, I do not worry. I think that there's a short-term challenge. There's challenges with healthcare delivery, cost of healthcare, particularly in countries like the US and India. But I feel like we have some handle on it. And mental and emotional health, this is not something I think about much. I mean, I've never kind of been somebody who's in touch with my emotions and my my social relationships as much. But having my kids at home, this, both have taken gap years, and having them at home, my daughter is a liberal arts major, and she talks a lot about and she observes me and my state, and she's made me much more aware about my social emotional well-being. But also, if you look at the broader context of society, right, and what is going on in our society today, and the health of our society, I think that's another dark spot for me. And to connect to what you were saying about people, trying to create these barriers, I mean, we benefited largely, me personally, through a global economy that was open to trade, open to ideas, open to intellectual property moving, open to migration. And if you look at some of the trends in even major countries of the world today, um, we are actually going the other way. And I think the global liberal elite, as they are often tarred, I think have taken had to kind of, their positions are being compromised and weakened in many countries.
Yeah, but if we look at overall, Ajay, we are all product of that, and there are more than 50,000 IITians in United States alone, and we are in 100 plus countries and counting, which is phenomenal. So we are, the globalization has really helped us personally as well as overall the globe. If you look at it, the wealth creation we have done as IIT alums, if I say alumni, is it's phenomenal. But the question has changed now. The post-pandemic world, all the rules, all the things you and me we used to believe and we used to think about has changed. So now let's come back to, because as an investor, because we can't solve every single problem, but we can do few things, people like you and me. So what is your take on social enterprises? And do you see that as a real way of changing the things? Because I'm on the board of several nonprofit and they're doing phenomenal work. I really love what Pratham is doing and a few other organizations. But the challenge I see it is that impact sustainable? And can they continue? Because the need to raise funds is so high that it kind of create a lot of friction, I see. So what is your take on that as an investor?
So I'll be honest in saying that I have not spent a lot of time looking at impact investments. So I would not say I'm well qualified to kind of provide a sophisticated view of it. In my own small world, my son is doing a venture, and I'm noticing this trend in general, which is that I think the millennial and whatever the Gen Z generation, I think, is thinking more. Are you still there? I think you're frozen,
Yeah,
Sanjiv.
I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Sorry. I think they're thinking more about the impact of their actions. They're thinking more about the world that they live in. And I find that more entrepreneurs, more individuals have, at that young age, are developing worldviews that consider the impact not only of their actions, but also of ways in which they might be able to make a difference. So, for example, just like I said, to make it personal, my son, I never thought that he would do something that was going to have impact on a segment of society that has been largely kind of marginalized and ignored. And he was affected by a friend who dropped out of high school because he was hard of hearing and was having difficulty in understanding the lectures and in communicating with his friends. And my son was actually motivated by that incident to try and, so he's working on a device to help an affordable device to help the hard of hearing and deaf. read captions
Mm-hmm.
and be able to see the speaker at the same time. So small story, but I think I think it takes I think it takes boats of different sizes to attempt impact, right? So at one level, you have kind of these global funds. You have, Bill Gates with his breakthrough ventures with, 24 or 25 other billionaires. The Gates Foundation has done stuff, but even, he will admit that the amount of change that even a powerful, rich organization like the Gates Foundation can have is very little. They can do pilots and they can demonstrate and they can, do the technological assessment. At the end of the day, the massive impact that you talked about, I think is still largely, government has to play a huge role in it.
So Ajay,
It's difficult, in my view, it's difficult and much as I would like to believe that private enterprise, because I keep saying, the government should restrict its role. But if you look at all the issues, right, whether it's health, whether it's environment, whether it's education, these are all issues that the government has to uh,
participate. So Ajay, when we talk about that, see two things I'm hearing from you is one is we have to think of innovation with purpose. So when we talk about enterprise, we have to talk about purpose. What is the purpose? Why are we doing it? What is the eventual goal and how is it impacting humanity? Second thing you talk about it is governance and how governments can influence or make these changes. But we both know the fact is for us to change even one of these things, we need a movement. And as our alums, if you look at it, we have contributed a lot. And I have a lot of pride, great pride when I talk about it, and I've been given this stage. So I really want to talk about how, as an IIT alum, I can make the alumni, I can make the difference. So the big challenge we have is the vision is the challenge. Cumulatively, if we can define the vision, I believe we have everything to make the changes. We have 500,000 alums globally today and 100 plus countries, and we are doing a lot of phenomenal work. So question I have for you is, what will you do to inspire them so they start taking action? And we saw in the COVID-19 time, especially even now, the air is clearer, the environment has changed. I can see the temperature is changing. So there's a lot of impact. So I realize if we stop messing with the earth, messing with the nature, then a lot of things can happen. However, how do we create that sustainable environment so it doesn't impact the life we have developed in so many years, or the world we have developed, and we continue to thrive? So what is your take on that, and what kind of challenge you would like to give to our audience?
Yeah, so I think, I don't think that we can have everything. We can't have our cake and eat it too, right? So unfortunately, I think particularly trying to protect the environment is going to come at a cost, which is going to impact the way you and I live today, right? Whether it means we're taking fewer flights, whether it means we are, cutting down on our consumption overall and our needs, whether it means we're changing the way and relying less on, dairy and meat, which contribute significantly to the environment. So a lot of it comes from, are each of us willing truly to make those hard choices and hard decisions personally? Right? Without that personal, Sanjeev, I don't believe that great movements can be had by preaching to others when you yourself aren't sure about what to do, right? Are we willing to forego our individual modes of transport if there is good public transport? So, for example, in Delhi, there is good public transport. I mean, the metro is actually quite, it's world class. And are we willing to ditch our cars and get onto public transport? I know that's a bad solution right now, but hopefully the situation will not stay the way. Are we willing to move to cleaner forms of energy? And that means making investments that might have returns on investment that might be 3, 4, 5 years. Those of us who have rooftops can are we willing to put in the investment on or putting maybe solar panels or geothermal geysers or whatever it is that is required. So I think I think it all starts from yourself, and you can't preach and give challenges to others if you're not willing to do things yourself, right? And so I look at myself and say, okay, what changes have I made in my lifestyle? And frankly, I've made very few. Every day I think that, okay, that I should do something different. Okay, I can buy an EV. That's the easiest perhaps thing to do, is replace my old guzzler with an electric vehicle. um, Try and see if I can sign up for ride sharing wherever possible. Reduce consumption of just overall wanting and needing. um, Keep using what I've already bought. So those are small things I can do. I think bigger things is definitely so for example, I'll tell you, Stanford Angels, we just recently invested in a company that's also founded by an IIT alum who is building a climate school. And what this alum has done is he's realized that there are many people who are in tech, are in different careers, who want to try to do something for the environment, but they don't know how to. Right? They don't know how they can start contributing their skills, their technical skills, their analytical skills, their data science skills to the environment. So his kind of venture is trying to do two things. One is to create a curriculum that helps people who want to move into doing work in climate change and environmental awareness, but also then create a community of people.
So where can we find, Ajay, where can our audience find more information about this organization?
So this company is founded by Anshuman Bapna, and the company is called Terra.do.
Nice.
IIT alum. So I would encourage everyone. I mean, it's not a plug for our investment. It's a plug really for an example, a small example of somebody trying to truly make an impact. Hopefully, it scales up.
Perfect. I'm sure it will. And there is a greater need, as we all know. We have to start moving in the right direction. We have to find ways how we can help environment, how we can help. We have 3 billion more people coming. So the global population will be 10 billion. We can't cut more forests. We can't. So we have to figure out a way. How do we don't poison even our ocean and earth, and get more yield? So the challenges are phenomenal. I am very passionate, Ajay, about food. In fact, majority of my investment in future will be around food. I am very passionate about alternative protein because I see that protein is a big challenge, especially when we talk about vegan or vegetarian diet. It's just, and because we are consuming pure carb.
So are you a fan of the Impossible Burger or the Beyond Burger? Which one?
All of those, but I don't eat either of those, but that's a different thing. Once in a while, but I am involved in a company. I don't want to give their name, but they have developed protein in the lab, which is as good as chicken quality. It's all grown in the lab using the fermentation process. They're already in the production now and working with some major giants. So there are several companies. In fact, in our conference, we have a major panel around food where we are bringing some unbelievable, exceptional speakers globally. Dr. Bruce is going to be from GFI, Good Food Institute, is going to run that panel. But really the idea is I have taken personally one cause, which is food, because I can't solve all the problems. I know if I'm able to make even fractional change in food, I will do that. And that's what I'm focused on. And I will encourage all of our audience to pick one. It doesn't matter what. As Ajay mentioned, that opportunities are phenomenal in every single space. So yes, I know we are all going through really tough time right now. There are a lot of challenges, but if you look our world and look at how we managed in last 6 months, it's phenomenal, Ajay. Nothing really has stopped. If you look at, of course, people were having the access to food issues and a lot of people lost jobs, but technology kept our world alive. Just imagine 25 years ago, similar situation. We may have a Mahem. We may not have gotten food, nothing. Can't
So
even.
yes and no is my answer to you, Sanjeev. Because I've also thought about, how have we adjusted and how quickly we have adjusted to this world where, digitization, digital transformation, these were kind of these boring buzzwords, and people would do presentations at, TI or NASCOM on digital transformation. You'd go like, oh my God, not another one, where it all seems so theoretical. And we're
Yeah.
living that now, right? I mean, companies that never thought they would need to digitize are digitizing. Um, Calls that we thought needed to be in person are can be done more efficiently virtually. Consumption is overall down. I agree. However, um, coming back to my point about, our social emotional, I still wonder about our ability to connect. When you're seeing somebody waist up, um, and they're in on a camera, as opposed to seeing them when they might be, dealing with somebody else um, after a drink, whether, are they better individuals or worse individuals, seeing their interactions with other colleagues. How does that come in? How do you get the camaraderie that only comes through bonding? And, I mean, all of us have our IIT day bonding stories. Can you imagine going through 4 years of IIT virtually,
No.
and then having the kinds of relationships and the desire to, act as a body? I mean, you're volunteering so much of time to manage. So I wonder whether some of the positive things we are kind of also not wanting to deal, given all the bad news, that we're not wanting to deal with some of the longer term potential impacts on creativity, on social bonding, on the need to actually physically connect. I wonder about that, and I'm surprised that more people are not talking about it. And I think, yes, the answer, some new way of virtual interactions, and I see that too. I think, yes, for example, my kids, they've been volunteering to do, one of them actually went through a virtual, what is it called, uh, orientation for the university, virtual. And there was this game called something online dot town, where they had avatars and they walked around this town and they met other people. And he was really excited. He said, that's cool. And my
That's
daughter is actually, she built a small team to create an online experience for freshmen, incoming freshmen, called Columbia Connect. And she was very involved with that. So there are new ways in which the young generation is thinking about these connections. So yes, technology is providing some of the answers. Virtual reality, unfortunately, I'm a big fan of VR. I've worked in a VR company. It hasn't yet come through, but there are some clues about, what might work. I mean, Fortnite has been a big hit,
Mhm.
uh, but VR meetings has not.
A
And
lot
maybe
of
some of
promises of the technology, Ajay. I completely agree with you on that. The point I was trying to make, and point I'm trying to make it is, it's not the challenges are there. We all know that. Because of technology, we are able to manage these last 6, 7 months far better than without the technology. So point I'm trying to make it is, if we look at things differently and look at what has worked in last 7 months, and we start building either organizations or company or technology or even policies. Because the big thing what I hear from you is that, Sanjeev, if the government get involved and we start putting proper policies in place, we can make a lot of changes. For example, I was just thinking is how difficult it is to have 1 week work from home every month, and what difference it will make to overall globe. Just because if there are only one person does, or one city, no, but if the entire globe 1 week we just work from home, it is a game changer.
yeah,
Now in a
I
year, we
agree.
are talking about 12 weeks. Literally we reduce pollution to almost 20%, 30%. So taking small steps, deciding how we are going to run our lives in future, and that's a conversation we want to have uh, in future with everybody we are talking to.
No, I think you make a good point that there are some many positives that are going to come out also of this. The workplace will never be the same, and there will be a lot of positives, right? Commutes will have reduced. The amount of time people were spending unproductively, wasting fuel, will come down. Education, the nature of education will change too. Hopefully we will have new hybrid models, which take the best of both worlds, the best of face to face, and where you did not need face to face, and large classes where you did not have and need a lot of interaction with the professor, could be what we today see in MOOCs, right? They could just be online, delivered uh, you know uh, asynchronously, and where the face-to-face interactions are important, whether they be small tutoring groups, whether they be seminar sessions, where there be interactions, teams and teamwork and projects, those will hopefully get more time in this hybrid model. And the offline and the online can also be delivered even more efficiently, right? You can do it on demand, you can do it in your own pace. So I think both work and education are going to have a lot of positive changes coming in, due to this experiment and experience that we have been having for the last 6 months. Uh,
So
but,
let's talk about
but,
our
but I,
conference, Ajay, for a
sorry.
minute.
Yeah.
With that, and we are talking about it, and I love to get your views on it. So our conferences are famous for one thing. If I look back, and I was involved, this is my third conference where I'm volunteering. Uh, every single conference, we find the collaboration between people was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even tell you how many companies I heard started, how many people changed their career, their lives, they moved to a different part of the world. Phenomenal work happened. Because these conferences are not just about content. In fact, most of the conferences you go, people are only talking about content. In our conference, content is critical, is important, but that collaboration, that co-innovation, I call it, is phenomenal. So we are asking and we are thinking of launching this campaign where we are calling it Watch Party, and inviting our alums to organize a smaller watch party with the social distance at their homes or at their clubs or in some place where they feel comfortable. The idea is, if there are people at one place, magic happens. You and me have seen it. In fact, you are the recipient of it. You met Haresh and his son and you started a company. It wouldn't have happened if you two were not there in physical proximity. So these kind of hybrid model for conference is what we are thinking. But if we expand it further, we can create even educational cells like that. So for example, the community you live in, your kids live in, there can be cells where kids can participate and collaborate. And instead of going and playing cricket, which I don't know anybody plays nowadays or not, because everybody's on computers. In our time, we grew up playing cricket. They go and have these club. Instead of social club, it become more like learning clubs. Do you see that happening in future? Do you see there is an opportunity for that? Do you see any of the IITian can start anything like this?
I haven't yet seen truly a format, a digital format that has helped in collaboration. Honestly, in the last 3 months, I've attended webinars and Zoom parties, and I haven't met anybody new that I could a working or a social relationship with. And maybe it's me. Maybe I'm not. I don't understand how to do this, and I'm still coping. Some things you're maybe too old to learn new tricks now, but so I haven't found ways in which this can be done.
Well, let's see. I'm sure we are going to give it an attempt.
But maybe that's a challenge. That's a challenge for some of the maybe IITians who are currently studying at IIT. Is are there ways to collaborate? I mean, frankly, even Zoom, it's hard for two people to talk at the same time, right? And there's kind of this forced. You've got to wait until the other person. So you can't do the sidebar conversation. Sometimes sidebar conversations can be annoying, but they actually can also be ideas where you've heard something, you don't want to lose the thought. You have a sidebar conversation with the person next to you saying, and chat cannot replace that. You cannot chat privately,
Completely.
asynchronously and do that. So no, I have not yet found these models, but I'm sure, uh, if they don't already exist somewhere in the world, there will be new models that will come up. I'm positive that this will happen, and there will be some companies formed that are creating some really neat ways of truly interacting digitally, where the experience feels a lot more like the real world, but you get the benefits of the digital as well. And I
So
don't know
here's
if
my
that
idea on
Lavakare,
that, Ajay.
sorry,
I think I have an idea for you.
okay.
We all know WeWork, and
Mhm.
that the concept, whatever we say where the company is, I'm not going to comment on that, but the concept is really good. And they have built a really, really good ecosystem global. I believe the focus was really in the center part of the city, really, really very core areas. Now we are going to change, and a lot more people are going to work from home. So two things I think should happen, in my opinion. There should be a new kind of WeWork where you are setting up these things in different areas, smaller setups where people can come and collaborate, but in a smaller numbers, so smaller size. So for example, if we talk about Delhi, 50 of those in a small area, which is like, it can house only 30, 40 people, not like a big one. But if I bring back and talk about learning, see, learning when we go back to our IIT days was very collaborative. We were learning more from our uh, fellow students than the teacher in the class. The teacher in the class is giving us some concept, but we are going back, studying in the library and discussing with our friends over coffee, tea, whatever it is. And that environment has to be recreated, even in this world. You and me both know a lot of kids are not able to come back to US, and even my own kids are in college, and I worry for their safety. But I couldn't say much because there is nothing out there. So I'm thinking in my mind, is there a way we can create these learning work or learning pods at different places, not like a club? Because the problem with the club is it's become very social. We create an environment where you have a whiteboard, where you have cameras set up, kids can come, they can learn, they can collaborate and co-teach each other. Do you see that as an opportunity for our IIT, and do you see that as possible, or it's too far-fetched at this time?
No, like I said, I think we're going to see very interesting models in education come up, and I'm less concerned about that. I think I'm more concerned about the collaboration, and also there are, as learners, in each child has their own individual style. Like you said, some learn from others, some are self-taught or self-paced and can do a lot of independent learning. Of course, they do need group as well, but relative amount of time they might spend learning in a more collaborative setting might be different. But I think the more interesting problem that I've not yet seen solved is the one around collaboration at work. Sales models are changing. I was actually also interested in knowing, well, how are sales models changing, right? Where your field sales, I mean, the job of field sales is dramatically transformed, right? What does
Yes.
it mean to be in field sales anymore? Um, so, sales or, that relationship building. Yes, we all say, oh, we're glad we don't need the lunches and the dinners. We don't have to do them as much anymore. But I think they play an important role. And I think one of the things I suffered from, and I don't know if that is your situation as well, Sanjeev, but at IIT, we had a phenomenal narrow learning. Okay, we learned about technology and we learned to be analytical and we learned to solve problems. But I don't think it was as well rounded in education as I would have liked. And I missed that. And I landed up at Stanford and I felt very, very adequate when it came to competing in civil engineering subjects or mathematical ones. I felt very inadequate when it came to taking a class in the history of modern art or ballroom dancing or psychology, because and I think the point I'm trying to make is that uh, these problems of collaboration and ways in which we're going to interact need thoughts and teams and people that it's a multidisciplinary effort, because the technology folks can solve the technology problems, but can they truly understand what a psychologist might bring in, saying, these kinds of interactions are actually more helpful, or an organization development person bringing that in. So I think the point is, I think many of us IITians are good arrows. We're very sharp. Maybe some of us, need more all-round development, and some of us are maybe in life. And then we turn to institutions like Ashoka and say, I wish we had an Ashoka when we were growing up.
True. No, I completely agree with you, Ajay, on that. And, it's a phenomenal time, in the good and bad both, but we have to make changes. IITians have to take charge, I believe. And the world is looking at us at this point of time. So the big thing I want to tell all our audience is, let's not wait for someone else to solve our problems. We have to solve it. We have to solve it together. We are going to fail. That's the nature. And the curiosity we have, that is going to thrive the humanity. That's my belief. What do you think about that, Ajay?
No, I'm very optimistic and positive. I mean, IITians know how to solve problems. That's so I have no doubt we're going to find ways in which to solve different kinds of problems. I think we will need to collaborate with others for a more holistic way to solve problems. And so, that means maybe reaching out to people who are very different from many of us. There's a lot of commonality amongst the IITians. There's not a lot of diversity, as you know.
Yeah.
And so can we bring in that diversity of views and opinions, and think about adding to the talent pool from places even outside IIT if required. Because I think that while we are phenomenal at solving problems, we also have sharp focus areas, and could benefit largely from teaming up with other people who bring in skill sets that we need to truly solve
all the
problems holistically.
Yeah. Completely agree.
I don't know if that makes sense to you, Sanjiv, but
oh, absolutely.
So I think the idea also perhaps of saying that we are great at doing this, we'll be even greater collaborating not just with each other, but perhaps with people from other backgrounds and other. There's something to be said about international diversity. There's something to be said about gender diversity. There's something to be said about interdisciplinary diversity. And at the end of the day, as IITians, we are still relatively homogeneous. 80% of us or more are men. Almost 100% of us are Indians.
Yep.
Right? 90% of us are engineers. And if you as an investor, that if the startup looked like that, you'd say maybe the startup team needs to add a little bit more of diversity.
True. So Ajay, I completely agree with you. And the challenge you and me both know, it is a challenge we have to solve together as humanity. And this is the time, IIT2020 conference, we are inviting every single one. And I'm calling it anybody who believes that he is or she is engineer of future. Please join us, please sign up. This brings to the end of our segment today. I'm Sanjiv Goyal, conference chair of IIT2020, PanIIT USA's mega virtual event. Join us, co-invent and co-define paradigms for this new world. Please register IIT2020.org. It'll be a phenomenal event. And yes, it is open to all. As Ajay said, we have to collaborate and work together and solve these global problems and create a better world, not for us, only for our future generation. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ajay. I can't thank you enough for your time today.
Well,
it was really awesome.
Thank you. No, thank you. So it's the recording?
Yeah, I just stopped the live cast, Facebook.
Okay, cool. So, in fact, I was thinking, Sanjeev, that maybe spouses of IITians could bring in a dimension, children of IITians could bring in a dimension that is
I was
missing.
hoping your son will come. I don't know what happened.
No, I told him. He said, "Well, if you want me to come," but then I think there was no. I mean, there was not a natural point in our
What is
conversation.
natural impact enterprise? What are you talking about? He's doing
Uh,
impact enterprises.
it's okay. It's fine. I mean, we were
Is he
anyway. I
here?
think
I still would like to talk to him for a minute. I want to see what he's
I'm
doing.
in my garage and he's in his room. So no, I'll have to call. I'd have to make a phone call and take some time.
That's
But maybe that's one thought is can you actually uh, do things collaboratively? And I don't mean just social, but actually think about engaging. Because I give you just again my personal example, right? So my wife has done a lot of work in air quality and air pollution. She's an expert. She's spent the last 5 years. She's got an NGO called Care for Air. She knows a lot more about air pollution than I do, right?
I'm sure.
So and having her, for example, in a session around what kind of a change to make if we're looking at improving air quality would bring a dimension to the conversation that I would not have, and many of us at IIT would not have, IITians would not have. So maybe there is a way, and not do a separate spouses session, but is there a way to actually have collaborative work being done, or collaborative projects in which spouses, and they don't necessarily have to be women spouses, there might be male spouses or children or parents, bring in some perspectives that will just add to our ability as IITians to solve these tough problems. I mean, that's one thought.
I believe, Ajay, it is a great idea. And really, if we look at the whole conference, IIT 2020, this is not just a 2-day thing. I'm taking it as like a next 365 days project. Personally, I'm going to run it till December 5th. After that, there is a larger team, and we are trying to recruit almost 1,000 volunteers from each IIT. We are talking to all of the IITs because it's a larger. It looks pretty small when we talk about virtual event, but in reality, it is a huge undertaking because each Zoom room, each speaker, all of that become really, really complex, even in the virtual world. Making sure Ajay is 5 minutes before Ajay receive a SMS message, Ajay, everything is working fine, doing your mic check, internet, all of those things. So coming back to our conversation is absolutely, I will be more than happy. What I would like to do it is, we have this startup track, Ajay. So if we can think, because really talking about problem is interesting, that doesn't entice me. I'll be honest with you. To me, let's talk about what are we doing or what should we be doing. So when we talk about environment, let's bring a couple of people, possibly with your wife, and really talk about what needs to be done. So like, for example, when we talk about government, we should talk about how are we making the impact? How are we changing it? What kind of startups you and me are getting involved for that? So I hear you that Sanjiv, buy a EV, right? I'm all in for that. And I am looking to buy a car today. Actually, I'm supposed to pick a car today. And you just changed my opinion. So I'm just thinking, should I cancel it right now? Because my accountant is wiring the money literally in next 30 minutes. So after listening to you, because I have one problem. My problem is, the big reason I'm still buying another gas guzzler is I don't want to think about the car or the mode of transport.
Yeah, that's what I meant. You don't want to worry about the charging and all of that. But this is where, you have to sometimes make decisions from the heart. And everything about buying the EV was wrong for me, right? I had to put a charging. In fact, there's a charging station in my garage right above here. I have to worry 250 kilometers, 270 kilometers. Delhi is not yet equipped for an EV. But I said, look, if I don't do it with my resources, then then who will do it? Who will buy electric four-wheelers if people like me don't do it?
So I have Tesla and I leave it in the Bay Area and I drove it. But I was stuck so many times, Ajay, I can't even tell you. I was literally stuck on the road, and where I can't figure out what to do. Because the problem is, when we talk about battery, it's not very predictable, right? So, but coming back to that, is it the future? Absolutely. Will I buy the new car he's working on, the Roadster, which is 650 miles? Absolutely. I'll be in the front queue as soon as he is going live, because he's talking about it for 3 years. So I'm not ready for that. I'm not going to wait for another 3 years. And I know the day Roadster will be launched, it's a game changer because it will be the fastest car on planet. It beats all the expensive, fancy, premium cars. 1.9 seconds, 0 to 60 in 1.9. 650 miles, single charge. So it's a game changer. The truck is working. The day truck comes, I will be in the queue to get it because the truck is giving almost what? Let's talk about 650 or 700 miles.
Yeah.
Single charge. So now it becomes very interesting. I park it wherever I am, get it charged for an hour and do it. But coming back to that is, I would like to talk to her or anyone, and you would like to talk, who is working on the new kind of battery technology. The battery technology which can be charged in 10 minutes, not in 10 hours, not in 3 hours. Or a battery technology that you put a solar panel on top of the roof and, on your car, and it charges while you're driving. Not enough, but it gives you at least something. So there are a lot of areas when we talk about sustainability, we have to look at it very differently. When we talk about pollution, there are a lot of ways we can solve this problem. You and me both know, but we need people to think differently. The challenge we have is we are trying to solve the age problem.
I'll tell you, this is where, so I also thought that, when I talked to my wife about the pollution problem, it is such a complex problem, okay, to be honest, that it requires collaboration across 3 different state governments, right? Punjab, Haryana, Delhi.
Yeah.
It requires, one is Punjab, Haryana, but it requires the coordination with the center. It requires collaboration with the citizens and the farmers of Punjab, Haryana.
And they're very powerful.
Sorry?
They're very powerful.
Yeah, so, you and I can come up with these solutions and they will fall flat because, so even though I believe that government should be restricted and I have very strong opinions that government should not be investing in startups, should not be getting involved with innovation and, but at the same time, problems of health, law and order, justice, environment, education, I don't think we have, I think those are 5 areas in which the government needs to be involved. Environment cannot be solved by individuals, however innovative and creative, because the government plays such an important role, right? And the enforcement, the regulations, transportation, ultimately at the end of the day, public transport and that collaboration with private transport, the last mile collaboration, again requires, so there are areas in which, unfortunately, I will say, you cannot do without government support, collaboration, intervention, and same healthcare. Healthcare is another one. I don't think it's the best idea. Look at the US. The US has given up so much to private healthcare, and look at the costs that the US healthcare system is bearing, right, because of that. So there are certain areas that I don't think we have a choice.
I'm not disagreeing with you on that, Ajay. I do see there are tremendous challenges and opportunities we have at the same time. I'm not saying that we can solve this problem without government intervention. I firmly believe that government should make policies. Their job is governing, their job is not running the country. Reality is that we both know that. They should make policies which align with the future of the country or future of the world. Not just that, when we talk about a state, we have to think global now. See, this is where I'm having a lot of personal challenges. If you look at today's world, we are locking ourselves down. We are locking to the extent that we are talking about that, something happened in China. The only way we can do it is we close the border. We are talking about more local economy, local things to do, which is okay for the local economy, and we should do that. But we are one single earth. We are one single world. Everything we do in New Delhi impact America today. It is that if somebody sneezes in India and Indian economy goes down, do you think American Wall Street will stand? No way. So we have a global impact of anything happen anywhere in the world. So the point I'm trying to make it is, as an entrepreneur, as an investor, it doesn't matter. I believe in only one thing. That is, I will die trying. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is, let's put our best foot forward. Let's start that dialogue. Let's bring those people on the common platform where we can go and even have this conversation with even the prime ministers of India or president of America